hasn't had to come out of our municipal equipment fund. Finally, we want to do what is best for our stakeholders, both internal and external. We want to take care of our citizens. We also want to provide the equipment and tools necessary for our members to do their job. Newton Fire EMS is set up to run 3 EMS calls simultaneously or 1 structure fire at any given time. We have 3 stations, 3 districts, Station 1, Station 2, and Station 3. Station 1 is our busiest station, runs approximately 40% of our calls. It takes the southern, everything north of the railroad tracks. Station 2 covers the core of the city, and then Station 3 takes everything to the south and to the east. We cover 250 square miles of EMS district and just over 100 miles of fire district. In 2024, we ran just over 4,300 calls for service. 3,600 of those were EMS in nature, or 84%. The other 700 were fire-related call, hazmat, alarm calls. We've seen 5 consecutive years of increasing call volume. Last year, we averaged just over 12 calls per day. The bar graph represents the breakdown between fire and EMS calls. I just got the numbers from the first quarter of this year, and we have surpassed where we were at this time last year. March, we ran 450 calls, which was the second highest call total for a month in our history, only to the ice storm back in, I think it was 2005. That was 14 calls a day we ran in March. The bar graph represents all the different types of calls we go on. Again, EMS is the biggest piece of the pie at 84%. Others include car fires, vegetation fires, car accidents, fire alarms, and various other calls. Call volume continues to increase, like I already mentioned. Simultaneous calls are becoming a larger and larger concern for us. As I said, we're set up to run 3 EMS calls at one time. In 2024, we had 376 third out calls. So over 1 a day, we were at max capacity for our system. Many times we have to call in Heston or Halstead to help us out when we get to that point. They are having issues with call volume as well, increasing call volume in their communities. They also have a lack of volunteers and providers. So they are dealing with some of the same issues we are dealing with here. Our challenges, as I already mentioned, we continue to see increasing call volume. Our biggest problem is north of the tracks in Station 1's district. That's our smallest station, but it runs the most amount of calls. As mentioned, 4th station, and I hope that is still in discussions. We need to get more resources on the north side of the tracks to help out with the added call volume on that side of the tracks. Recruitment. Recruitment still is difficult for us. People are getting out of the fire service, and they are not entering it. New hires are not entering. Don't know the reason, but there's a nationwide shortage of providers. Departments are stealing providers from one another. They're offering lateral moves, offering sign-on bonuses, moving expenses. We've done it to other departments and they've done it to us. So it continues to be a difficult environment to hire people. It's critically important that we maintain competitive wages and we take care of our employees, giving them the tools they need. Increasing costs. Inflation is hitting us just like it's hitting everybody else. Our equipment and supplies don't go as far as they used to. EMS apparatus and fire apparatus, when we order a new one, it's not measured in months anymore. It's measured in years. The backlog, the back orders are, an ambulance now takes 2 to 3 years for us to get. Fire apparatus are 3 to 4 years to get. I just got a note last week from our ambulance vendor. They have seen, since COVID, they've seen an 8.2% increase in inflation in the ambulance, cost of ambulances. And for example, in 2017, we bought a brand new ambulance for $189,000. We just got one last week and it was over $350,000. So the prices are have skyrocketed. We have one more ambulance on the books for 2027. And they're booking 28 and 29 now. So we have stayed proactive and gotten stuff on the books because these orders are so far out. Our municipal equipment reserve is good for the next couple years, but we do show a shortfall in 2029 of over $600,000, and then it gets much worse in 2030. Our funding do not cover our actual costs. What we receive from reimbursement, Medicare, Medicaid does not cover our actual costs. Last year, they did raise Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, so that did help quite a bit. Everything is dictated by CMS and insurance companies, so it doesn't matter what we charge. We get what their contract rates are. Our payer mix, 58% of our patients are on Medicare, 14% are on Medicaid, 16% are private pay insurance, and the other roughly 12% are self-payers. And of all the reimbursement we get from EMS billing, only 41% of the revenue covers our actual expenses. And finally, legal requirements. We are legally obligated to respond to calls when somebody calls 911. And we have to do it in a timely manner. If we are unable to respond, we are subject to investigation, sanctions, fines, or even loss of licensure. That has happened in Kansas before. It has not happened to us, thank goodness.
Corey, would you repeat, please, the Medicare, Medicaid, and the amount of calls, or that I think you were.
So our payer mix, 58% of our patients that we transport are on Medicare, 14% are on Medicaid, 16% have private insurance,
Okay.
and then the other 12% are self-pay.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Our revenues, we have 3 sources of revenues. We provide fees for services such as standbys, graduations, and football events. That doesn't amount to very much. We also provide first aid and CPR training in the community. And then the EMS billable fees we've collected. We also have contracts with North Newton and the township of Newton, Macon, and Darlington. And then Harvey County provides an EMS distribution for EMS coverage to the eastern part of Harvey County that we also receive. The total comes out to be, of all those revenue sources in 2024, was $2.57 million going to the general fund. Our expenses. The chart shows expenses from 23, 24, and the projections for 2025. These are our personal service, contractual services, commodities, equipment and supplies, vehicle expenses, capital equipment, and then everything that goes into our municipal equipment. I do want to want you to see at the bottom, the revenue has increased from 23 to 24, and we're hoping with the added Medicare, Medicaid reimbursements that we'll also see another increase in 2025. And if you look at the bottom line, you'll see that the added revenues have basically offset our budget enhancements in 23 and 24. So we're hoping that continues. Expenses. Our proposed 2026 budget included all the personal services increase, step increases, the added community risk reduction specialist position. We also made adjustments for fire and EMS inflation and equipment. Also, since we're running more calls, we have more billing expenses from our Omni Billing, who does our billing for us. And there's also an enhancement, I believe, for our annual life scan, annual fitness, and physicals that we are providing for our members. I want to commend the commission for their proactive bringing economic development and business and industry into Newton. You guys have done a wonderful job. Hundreds of millions of dollars are going to be of industry are going to be coming to Newton in the next 3 to 5 years, and I don't know how many more people that's going to bring in. We have to protect all that property and all those people coming. And right now, that has me somewhat concerned because I don't know that we right now have the bandwidth to do that. So over the next discussions, over the next couple of years, please be thinking about Newton Fire EMS and having those discussions on how you can support us, our department, to protect all those assets that are coming to Newton. Any questions I'd be willing to answer at this time.
On that point, I'm concerned about the mutual aid agreements that we have and the potential BES situation in Halstead and your team having to cover in that type of a situation. Has there been any discussion about that?
So anytime Heston, well, every city in Harvey County, anytime there is a automatic structure fire, we have automatic agreements where we will go to Halstead, we'll go to Heston, and they will come to us. Same way with EMS calls. If we get to a third out, we will put Heston on standby. If they're not available, we will call Halstead. If they're not available, we will call Sedgwick.
Right.
Because Sedgwick is up and running now, 24/7, EMS-wise. So our mutual aid agreements are solid.
But my concern is the best battery solution in Halstead would require specialized firefighting techniques or equipment, and
that I do not know.
That is a discussion that I would like you guys to banter about, and because if we're going to have a mutual aid agreement in that type of situation, our people need to be prepared, trained, and protected.
Sure. And I don't know a whole lot about that situation, but if it's a lithium ion, you can't put those fires out.
Right.
You essentially have to let them burn out.
Mhm.
So yes, there is added concern. I know there's added concern on Halstead Fire's part.
Right,
And if they get a fire there, I'm sure we're going to. So
right. So
yes,
just be thinking about that, and
Yep.
then we would need to think on the expense side
sure.
of how we could have some support from them to increase our posture.
Sure.
You had 58% at Medicare, so I take it you have a lot of seniors
We do.
falls and,
Lots of falls, lots of nursing home calls.
okay.
Yeah. 60 and over is the majority of our calls.
And there's really nothing, I don't know, I'm not sure how to ask this. When you get there and observe what you have, what has happened, is there anything, I mean, have they done their best? Did they try to, rugs, falling on rugs, did they do their best to avoid that? Or are they not able to, are they not using a walker like they should? I'm thinking of my own parents when they went through this.
So our providers have those conversations. If they find an issue, they will let them know. Hopefully, it'll resolve that. There's some people that are in homes that need more help than they have, and they're stubborn, and we can't make anybody do what they don't
Yeah,
want to
I
do.
know.
And that's the difficult position that our providers are put in.
I'm seeing that on
But-
Meals on Wheels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Our guys do a great job at providing advice. Whether
Yeah,
they
I
accept it or not is up to them.
Yeah.
And we have called family members of patients and let them know what's going on, because they don't always know what's going on with their family members.
I observed a EMS situation not too long ago, and I think that they did, the EMS that came out did a great job assessing the person, taking their vitals, doing, blood sugars and things like that, narrowing everything down to, does this person really need to go in, type of thing. And, everything with that person checked out great. So, at that point, they were like, hey, we could take you in if you want us to, but everything's checking out good. Your vitals are good, and every blood sugars are good and stuff. So, so the person decided to go ahead and take the trip, but I thought they did a really good job assessing that, and kind of, they didn't like discourage it, but didn't encourage it either, and kind of left it up to them to decide whether they wanted, they really needed to go.
Our providers can't force anybody to go to the hospital. There are times that somebody needs to go to the hospital that they just refuse. So it kind of puts our members in a bad position
does.
when we know they need to go to the hospital, but they just do not want to go.
Yeah.
And that's just part of it.
Do you find that those calls, well, if you take somebody in and they really don't need to go, but you're willing to take them in if they agree to go, such as what she's describing, does that impact how you're paid? Because I know when you log that stuff, I mean, in the medical arena, your diagnosis codes usually drive how they pay. So if you take somebody in how does that work for you all?
It's like, I think 92% of the bills we submit, we get paid something on. So our guys, our members do a really good job at documentation. And we've been told before from our billing company, we are the gold standard when it comes to
good.
documentation.
Good.
So they are very happy with our documentation. There are people that our members don't think they need to go to the hospital, but they still want. We take them.
Yeah.
We're not going to refuse anybody service.
Yeah,
It's the right
want
thing to do.
that. Yes.
Right.
So just because we don't think it's an emergency doesn't mean it's not an
Yeah.
emergency to somebody else.
Exactly.
Well, as long as your
It goes,
documentation is
it goes
good.
both ways.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. Thank you.
anything else?
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Tell Chief he's out.
Yeah.
You're in.
Ooh.
Thank you.
You want to train copy?
Law. Chris.
Next, we have law.
Morning. Please jump in with any questions. I'm going to start with our personnel. Obviously, with the law department, a big portion of what we do has to do with personnel, and this being a budget meeting, obviously, most of our costs, we don't buy fire trucks or big equipment. We do have people that are here every day that do a great job. You guys know Greg, who's the court administrator and clerk. He's very good. He's been here a long time. He understands the workings of a municipal court and does a good job keeping us on the front end. He's constantly aware of things that we can do to increase our service, to try and reduce wait time, to notify folks of court hearings and do those things while all operating within the confines of the law. Pat helps him out in the office and is essentially training to do a lot of the things that Greg does. We've got Carrie, who's our probation officer, who sees a pretty large caseload in terms of folks that have been through the system that are on probation. We've got a prosecutor's assistant who's a new hire, Ginger, from district court, and we're excited to bring her on. We'll touch on that later in terms of some of our transitions with new personnel. We've got a victim witness coordinator, Bethany, who does just an A-plus job in terms of working with victims, being on the front end in terms of the trends, and really providing a great resource for victims of domestic violence in Newton. I'm really proud of the system we have in place there. We listed our municipal court judge, who's not a city employee but an independent contractor. That's Kelly Schodorf, and she handles the docket on Thursdays. The next position is split between the municipal court and the office of the city attorney, and that's Barron. He's a recent hire in the last couple months. He spends about a third of his time dedicated to handling the docket, and we're still working on that transition. I'm helping him out with trials, but he's handling a big portion of the day-to-day Thursday docket now, which has been great. It's opened up a lot of my time, which has been awesome. The other time, he assists Matt and myself on the civil side with those things, and he's doing a great job. And then finally is our paralegal, Matt Cook, who's great. He does a great job with touches every civil project that we get in the office, and is awesome. You guys, I think, know the major responsibilities in terms of the things that we do. We try and be a resource to not only the commission, but all of the department heads for any legal issues that come up, being in-house counsel. In terms of the city court, and again, I think this is a review, obviously, from last year. We handle misdemeanors, we handle traffic violations, then a lot of the nuisance abatement cases, not only on the criminal side in terms of going for fines, but also administrative when we want an order to do some type of ordered remediation. Obviously, juveniles that are charged with crimes go to district court. Anything felony that would go to district court, then anything that happens obviously outside the confines of the city of Newton would go to a district court. In terms of recognition, I did pick up a fellowship with IMLA. It's a great organization, and I thank the commission for allowing me to be a part of it. Since when I first started, Bob got me involved in IMLA. It's a national conference, and just the caliber of speakers and attorneys that are involved, it's just, it's inspiring to kind of raise the bar that I want Newton to have that kind of attorney that can really lead the way. We're not just doing it as a job, but the conferences have been great. They're very high level, and they definitely bring you back motivated. Budget changes, we hit 2 on these bullets. I think maybe I skipped this. Are we one slide ahead or one behind?
Which,
I've got
wait,
budget
you want me to
changes.
go
Okay. Well, there's a missing slide, but budget changes. We had credit card processing, which is maybe Donna can talk about later. That's been shifted to our department, adding roughly 13,000 to our annual expenses. And then also, as every department seen, there's been travel expenses increased with inflation. New programs, grants. I think we're just out of order.
Yeah, which way do you want to go
There
back?
we go, either way. The Victim Witness Coordinator's Office is partnering with the PD to launch a new domestic violence initiative focused on serving the needs of victims. And I'll touch on that as well later, but there's clear delineation in terms of the independence of the court, but we try and work well with our PD, and there's been a number of these joint initiatives where victim-focused improvements that we can provide a greater service to, again, victims of domestic violence in Newton. Given that we see misdemeanor cases, DUI and domestic violence are, the kind of the top tier cases in terms of priority that we face. Not that every case isn't important, and I know that code enforcement is important to this commission. It's important down there too, but in terms of those public safety justice issues, DUI and domestic violence definitely is towards the top. The next slide is our table, and
I don't see the table.
oh, you're
in
good.
here.
We did have pending challenges in there, and obviously I didn't get that in there. But we do have staffing transitions with a new prosecutor team in terms of a brand new prosecutor and a new prosecutor's assistant. But myself included, there's a team around them to provide them with support as they we pass the baton and take them to that next level. We'll be working on that, and then we're hopeful that at the end of the calendar year, they'll take off and run. We can go to the table, and I would stand for any questions. Obviously, you do see the increase. I talked about the $13,000 increase in terms of the credit card fees. I don't know, Donna, have you spoken to that? Or
Yes, we started watching our fees, and they're going up so high, like even in water and sewer, we spend like about $160,000 on credit card fees in each fund. So Lisa took a deep dive into everything, and we went quarter by quarter to see what happened. Well, we are in Open Edge, which is a affiliate of Tyler, and that's who they recommended we went with, and they have Global as their interchange person or company. We found out that it was like tripling every quarter, all our fees. And so she dug into it and called them on it, and because we're going to switch. This is for the birds. And they are doing this to everybody. And if you don't ask them to review your rates and go down, they'll come back down. But if you don't ask, it just goes up and up and up. So we're not real happy, but they are coming back down because she's hounded them. So we are looking into a different vendor, for sure.
So this is what you collect out, even though when citizens pay their bills
They
with a
pay
credit card, they pay $1?
They pay $1, and when they're on the phone using their credit card, they pay $1. I think it's $1.25 on that one. So they pay that, and a lot of places are putting the credit card fees on the customer as well. And we had thought about that because it's getting so bad. But we were charging about 2.8% plus per item charge, and it kept going up as well. So they are just greedier than all get out. But you have to catch them on it, and then they'll come back down, which to me just seems very unethical.
Strategy.
Yeah, so they're making money hand over fist with people who don't pay attention, like we didn't for a while. We just thought it was increase in revenues coming in, more people using it, which is true. But they were really taking advantage of this. So we've got it back down to where it was before last year, and we'll stay there while we look for someone else. We just don't think that's very good business. So.
Yeah.
We don't want to put it back on the customer if we don't have to. Because we're trying to encourage them to get on here, but if we can't afford it,
But
So-
for things like water bill, you can do an ACH and
Yes,
avoid the
it's
fee,
free.
and the
Yes.
city avoids the fee as well.
everybody avoids the fee. Yeah.
Do that.
There
Yes.
is a fee for that too?
No,
No.
not for
okay.
ACHs.
I do that, but I don't want to, I won't.
A lot of people don't like to automatically set it up because their month doesn't correspond with the the due date all the time, you know? So they are hesitant, or they just don't want us to be able to get into their account. There's still people that don't trust anyone getting in there for automatic purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is free when they do that, and it's sure convenient for both of us.
I would just say final point would be, and kind of building on what Corey had said, obviously you guys are all aware we're in this stage of growth, and that does apply to the law department as well. I think our biggest wild card is when we have to rely on outside counsel, just when an issue has issues that are outside of my expertise. We try and handle as much as we can in-house, but we're also trying to be cognizant to know that if this is something where we need to tap in outside counsel, we do. So obviously, we're pretty confident in terms of the vanilla. We can handle that all in-house. When you get to the complexities, there's some issues that we can handle, and there's some that we just need to utilize outside counsel, and that's hard to budget in terms of how many of those issues are going to hit in a given year. So.
Anyone? Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have police.
Police.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Of course, they had to put me behind Chris. He talks so eloquently.
Can,
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm the police department.
Yeah.
So I beg of you, so that this is interactive. So if you have questions along the way, there's a lot of, it's very complex, and we can't cover it all in 20 minutes. So if you have any specific questions, feel free, shoot them out. Let's just try to cover it. Of course, our mission statement, I can read it to you. Our mission is to work in partnership with the community to provide prompt, professional police services that place an emphasis on enhancing the quality of life while maintaining respect for our individual rights and human dignity, building confidence and respect between citizens of Newton and their police department. Our major responsibilities, I got to thinking about this, is that, you know, for me, it's pretty simple what we do. We police our community, but to dive a little deeper down into it is, you know, the three primary things that our primary function is deter crime, detection of crime, and we apprehend criminal activity. But the primary ones that, in addition to that, I like to add a fourth one there is education to help in all of that to deter crime and everything that goes along with it. Our to deterrence of crime is that's why we have marked police cars. We put our vehicles, we put our officers in areas to deter crime. I mean, that's our visibility. We don't know what we deter, but we are deterring the criminal activity just by our sheer presence alone. So we try to be as proactive as we possibly can, just in that aspect. Detection of crime, you know, that's where our investigators investigate crime once it gets to that level, and we have really highly trained investigators. So we don't have to rely on other entities to come in and do our investigations for us, the KBI or the KHB or anything like that. Because our officers are so highly trained, we do our own interviews, and that's because if we have to call another entity to come in to do our work for us, it's time, and we're letting our victims down by prolonging the investigation so they can get some closure in whatever their criminal activity is that they were a victim of. So that's why we're very self-sufficient. We take a lot of pride in that. And then apprehension is obviously arresting the criminal activity when they occur. Education, and with our new training facility, it really opens us up, and I really appreciate the support that the commission has really given us to that. But it really opens up a lot of doors for us, and we can actually give back to the community. We've been talking about that, is that what kinds of, we don't have to share with 3 or 4 other entities for a small room. This is all, we have full control of our facility now. And how do we give back to our community by doing that? You know, we do classes, personal safety classes, hunter safety, we're talking about doing that, gun safety, those kinds of programs that we can give back to our community, so it's free of charge, or just a nominal fee, a small fee just to keep the lights on, those kinds of things. And not to mention, be the premier law enforcement training area or center in our geographical area. So we can bring in other agencies. We can be a part of helping them be better at what they do, and in turn, maybe they can help us be better at what we do. But this is a centralized location that we can all come together and collaborate, be together, network, do our force-on-force trainings, but just training in general, not just force-on-force type things. But we have the capability to do that now, which keeps us out of court, by the way. The litigations, and which really, Chris really, I would think, appreciates that. He's got enough going on himself.
And I do want to comment right quick.
Sure.
We made these a little prettier after we got them. And so they're not quite matching up, and they were pulled before the pretty ones got put into your packet. So, but they're all the same information. It just looks a little different. So I just want you to, if you look up and it's not quite your slide, it is your slide. It's just moved around.
They had to beautify it because I did not do a very good job with it, apparently. And I'm okay with that. Accomplishments, I mentioned our training facility, which is a huge benefit to us and in the community as a whole, for that matter. Our calls for service, we average, and we have been averaging about 24,000 calls for service every year. It's a tremendous amount of calls of service per year in comparison to the number of officers we have. So we are very busy. It leaves very little time for us to do that proactive patrol, like I was just speaking about before, but we're managing. Our crime rate is on the decline. Because we spend as much time as we can being out in the public, doing the educational things, being a part of our community, being visible, and I truly believe that that's the reason why our crime rate is on the decline over the last few years. That's about the only thing I can come up with is that for the reasoning for that is because we are more out into the community. We're more visible. Not just me. I expect all of our officers, from the newest officer all the way up to myself. I can't be at everything all the time, but the officers, the uniform officers, my command staff, everybody, we are a part of the community, and that's what we want to be highly visible. Motor vehicle accidents, I'm not really happy with that. That tells me we need to do more traffic enforcement. That's not going to make it go over well, but we probably need to improve upon that. Looking to the future, we do need to be thinking about, with the growth that we have in the next few years, just keep that on your radar as well. Some of the good things that one of my sergeants, working with our courts, with the domestic violence victim advocates and things, and we are at the leading edge of protecting our victims, because we do have a lot of domestic violence. Why is that? Maybe it's because we're being more proactive in our education, that victims have a resource to go to, and we want to be a part of that resource for our victims out there. And Sergeant Deck is along with Bethany in our municipal court, along with our district court folks and their victim advocates. I truly believe we're on the leading edge with that, to better serve our community, our victims, so they can get but not just for the victims, but for the offenders as well, so they know, and give them the resources so they don't reoffend. And then our K-9 program is still, I'm an old dog guy myself, so it's been, we have an outstanding K-9 program, so we usually get first, second, or third in the competition. We're usually leading the state in that aspect, so we're very proud of that. And then our school resource officers, they're trying to be proactive with our children as well, our coat drives, things like that, just being out in the community. Alice instructors. Objectives, I don't know where we're at with that.
Yep.
Obviously, we want to continue to continue lowering our crime rate, our response times. I like to keep being a little more quicker to getting to where we need to be. We talked about our training facility being the premier in this area. Being out in the community, outreach programs, hunter safety, personal safety classes, gun safety classes. I think I just skipped ahead on all of that. I'm going to sound like a broken record. We talk about this all the time, and every year is retention, recruitment and retention of police officers. We seem to lose and gain 5 officers every year, and that's very difficult for us because it takes 10 months to train one singular officer to fully get them where they need to be, and if we don't train them appropriately, then you're going to hear about it because lawsuits will ensue. We'll get lots of complaints from citizens if we don't spend the time training our officers. So recruitment is not really much of an issue because our best recruiter are our current employees. They are the ones bringing in, whether it be friends or family or their recruitment is really good because of our culture, what we have with our police department. They're the ones that are bringing in their replacements once we leave. Now, why are we losing officers? For a variety of different reasons. It could be pay, it could be leaving for the private sector, or law enforcement is just not something that they expected it to be. So, and that's okay, that we're gonna have a certain amount of that. But losing 5 every year is very hard. So we need to try to, how do we fix that? What's the magic answer to that? We haven't come up with it yet. We've changed a lot of our culture, how we interact with our community. We changed a lot of that over the last few years. So we've got that down. Now, what's the missing piece here? And we just haven't been able to put a finger on it yet, but we will. Obviously, and it's going to be talked about, and I'm sure you've heard it all day yesterday. It's the cost of equipment. Oh my gosh, vehicles. Where we order vehicles. It used to take us 2 weeks to get a vehicle in. Now it took us a full year to get vehicles in last year, and we ordered our vehicles for this year, early part of this year, and we won't see it till midsummer. So. And the price has nearly doubled on all the vehicles in the last couple of years for a variety of different reasons. And try to keep up with that. It's so unpredictable to budget. How do we budget for these kinds of increases year over year? It's a crapshoot. So we're trying to stay ahead of it. Try to go with the patterns of how the expenses go. And we still don't understand. But it is what it is. So how do we keep up with that? Our technology, our body cameras, our camera, we have, as we've talked about many, many times, we have layers and layers of accountability. Body cameras, car cameras, GPS units, the cost of that obviously goes up, but the cost of not having those pieces of equipment, it costs the city considerably more, and it's been proven in many, many times over the last few years by having those pieces of equipment. And our as the community grows, well, it's a blessing and a curse, but we have a lot of mental health facilities, sober living facilities, our homeless shelters, which it's a very positive thing. That's a great resources for the community, but it's also a challenge for us because if they've been evicted from those facilities, now they're roaming around our community. Our community is having to deal with those, which in turn we deal with them. We give them the utmost respect, but we tried to if they're not being sober, there's a reason, a lot of reasons why they're not. They've been evicted from some of those facilities. So that is, and they're growing within our community. We're getting more and more of those houses and facilities right here in Newton.
Kind of drive that home.
Sure.
I don't have the numbers in the back of my head, but Ember Hope, Prairie View, our senior housing, I mean, you're talking about 100 new units at least in the next probably year. 100 units times, I don't know, 3 or 4 people. Whether it's here in the community or bringing people into the community, that will definitely impact our public safety department. Just keeping that in the back of your head. This is not part of our comprehensive plan, and I hope that our comp plan that we're working on will speak directly to how we can manage that with the staff that we have and when the trigger is of, okay, now it's time to add staff, because it wasn't part of the growth.
So we were part of a budget session several years ago. I think Leroy would definitely remember this, and I'm not sure you were on board yet, but it was either Murphy or you. But you explained there were like, I'm thinking 3 different levels of officers. You can get by level, and then maybe a little bit better level, but then there was the best level. In other words, the number of officers that you would have. And it sounded like you would just try to avoid going to the top level, but you tried to make do with we can make do at this level or maybe a little bit better. Do you recall something like that? There were about 3 different,
Was it the shifts and the staffing on the shifts or something?
well, it was the amount of officers
Per
per shift and on available.
Right.
That you had total, and then how many would you really need total to have superb? And I think that word superb was part of that. How many officers would you need to have in order to have not above adequate shifts,
Right.
above adequate? And I think the word adequate was part of that as well. So I don't have the notes from
Sure.
down, but I just remember 1, 2, 3, adequate and superb. And so,
Our minimum staffing on our each one of our shifts, and we have 4 shifts, but it's a 24-hour coverage is what we do, and our minimum staffing is 4 officers per shift. That is not very many officers to cover the number of calls that we take every day, but that's minimum. And because we're losing 5 officers every year, that's the bigger problem, because it's more and more difficult to make sure that we're getting that minimal staffing, which is 4. That means overtime, which is the reason why we have to raise our overtime budget, because we're spending about $200,000 a year just in overtime alone, because of our staffing has been so short. So that's our minimum staffing. Our premier would, and it's set up to be, each shift would have 7 officers per shift. That's the ideal. Then we have supervisors, 2 supervisors per shift, so they can be split up. So you have the 2 supervisors and then 5 regular patrol officers that patrol your beats. That alone, that's the premier that we really trying to get to, is so we have adequate coverage throughout the entire city. As these calls come in, they can spend more time being proactive, deterring that crime, making sure our traffic flow is at its peak during those prime times. So that's our primary. That's the premier would be at 7 per shift.
So does that cover, provide enough coverage for calls like mine a week or so ago
Yes.
for 911 noise? So that means there's an officer available for those kinds of things, or likely to be.
Yes, because we have to prioritize our calls as they
Right.
come in.
Yes.
Obviously, those high priority calls have
Right.
to, and then we have a lot of paperwork to go. We write about 5,000 cases per year. That may not sound like after 25,000 calls for service, because we don't write on everything we go to, but we have to document, and lack of documentation will get us in trouble. So we document everything.
So if 4 is minimum and 7 is premier, what is effective? What is
Effective is
5?
5 or 6.
5 or 6?
Yes.
So, I mean, I'd love to get you to premier.
Me
I mean,
too.
it'd be wonderful. But, I mean, the reality is,
Yes.
you probably isn't available candidates out there that would meet the muster
Right.
to police in our community.
And we're very selective.
I know we are. That's why I was choosing my words very wisely.
And we don't want
Okay.
that to change.
No, not
We
at
don't
all.
want that to change and everything. So I think we all can definitely say we don't want you at the minimum and everything. We'd like to get you to the sweet spot so you're effective. I think the opposite perception could be that with too many officers, that there are people that could say you're
Over-policed, yeah.
But no, I think we all truly do support and everything. We'll try and get you to the sweet spot.
Sure.
And everything.
Well, while you're here,
Sure.
so I was chatting with Mayor yesterday, I say last night, but yesterday, and a couple of staff. on the nuisance thing, I guess that's what we want to call it, the ordinance. I think you hear this from me every year.
That's okay.
Well, but it is a big part of the community.
Sure.
It's very frustrating to drive around and see cars parked in yards where people just pull up and park. And I know that manpower, you're going to take the priority calls. But you have to do that, but then there's also the need to keep this community, I guess, in good working order, for lack of better words, where people are following, and I know it's not going to be perfect. I understand that.
Sure.
I think I have enough smarts to know that it's not going to be perfect, but staying on top. So if you're responding to priority calls, then you do not likely have the manpower to be going to this address or that or this and talking to people about the cars in their yards. And so how do we remedy that?
Yeah, well, if it's beyond the curb line, is code enforcement, which would be Jerry Lewis, having more code enforcement officers, and I'm not sure if the Public Works Director or if anybody else, you spoke about that, but beyond the curb line is code enforcement belongs into the engineer's office.
When you say beyond the curb, you're talking about
If it's on the street, then it's a police matter.
out in the street?
Right.
Okay,
If
so
they're
up in
parked
the
in the
yard,
yard,
it's Jerry Lewis?
Yes, it's the code enforcement.
Okay.
Now, broke down vehicles down on the streets, that is our responsibility, and we tried to tackle that. In fact, our street sweeper keeps us well in tuned about who is parked, our vehicle that's been parked at any length of time, because he's
Good.
going to know better than most, because
Good.
that's his job function.
Okay.
And he lets us know. We tried to red tag to get a hold of the vehicle owners, try to get those removed from the streets.
And the campers and the
And the
trailers.
camper, oh yes.
What is the don't park within, like on a fire hydrant or a
Right.
stop sign, or is it 20 feet?
Yeah, it depends on, it could be 15 or 20 feet depending on what the statute is and what is either the hydrant or the stop sign or a corner. Or you can't block a driveway, or you can't block a sidewalk. Even if it's on your driveway, you can't block the crosswalk.
Yeah, I got that one about 15 years ago when
Yeah.
I was taught that one. I had a car parked in the driveway and it was hanging over the sidewalk.
Yes.
It was a nice conversation.
Well, good.
Well, thank you. I mean, that is something I would like to see the commission work on. It's just really troubling to
Sure.
me. I'm sorry, it's just a passion that I work hard to rein in, but I also feel like we really need to work on resolving it. When we have people coming to this community, companies bringing their employees and families, and they might see parks that are inviting, yes, but when you see dumpy, trashy, unnecessarily dumpy, trashy places that could get resolved, that's frustrating to me.
Yes.
Because if I'm going to follow the law, my expectation is, and I know this is probably not good, but my expectation is the law's on the books, follow it. If I'm breaking it, then let me know too. I mean, I think that's, and so when we let it go, and that's probably because of a manpower issue, whether it be in the yards or out in the streets, when we let it go, that's just an invitation for everybody else in the community to say, well, they get by with it, so will I.
Right.
Well, I believe everything that you're saying is spot on. I would go one step further and say, it's everyone in the room, watching, around. I did not care for the Newton app when it first came out because I didn't know how good it was. It's handier than buttons on a shirt, okay? Because you see something, you can just hop on the app, take a picture of it and say, this ain't right. And it shows it on the map, it gives it to the staff, and staff can run with it and everything. And so having that in addition to the ability to call to the clerk's office and the ability to contact any one of us via email and everything, if you see something, say something. And if it ends up being something that's criminal, get kicked over to PD.
Absolutely.
So I'm I am now a proponent for the app, so.
And I don't disagree with that, but like we talked yesterday, it still results in a body or somebody going to do something.
But it's data, and we can action
Yeah.
off of data. We can't
Yeah.
action off of somebody saw something, internalized
Mm-hmm.
it, and is frustrated with the state of our community.
Subjective versus.
We can't
Right,
action off of
right,
that.
yes. And so do we need then to look at our, do we have the staff that can ultimately handle that? Whether that's, you get it from the app and then you start taking a person away from what he is doing, i.e. Jerry Lewis, and he's not able to do the other things that it's because he's got to go handle this or he's got to go out and handle that. And those are because people did use the app and they notified, but still do we have the staff that we need to take care of that kind of a thing? Having the beauty of the app to use and just the other things that have to be taken care of. We're a community of 18,500 plus people. And we have one individual. And I know that you pull city staff off in the streets area, but and they're good about notifying, but they should be doing what they're supposed to be doing and not have to worry about what if they see this, and this, and making sure that gets reported as well. And I'm not trying to be troublesome, honestly, I'm not. It's just, it's something that we talk a lot about every year, and we're like the hamster in the wheel, we don't seem to get this resolved. And I realize when you talk about adding a position, you are talking about tax dollars. And if our citizens would rather see the community continue in areas like it is, and they don't want the tax dollars spent for the potential staff, another staff member, then I guess that's what they need to let us know.
And I think we can do that. I think we can go the other direction as well, that if we increase the use of the app, we get it into the database, we can report off it and demonstrate that our community is using the app and telling us of the problems that they want solved, then we can justify adding that
Yeah,
position.
and I would agree with that.
Rather than adding the position now and then having to defend it.
Well, I semi-agree. I know I feel like we can defend it because we all see it and we all talk about it. If we have to have the data in order to justify it, I understand that too, but I think some of the data is in what you see just without the app because people know it, but they just don't.
Sure.
They don't bother. If they don't live around it,
I mean,
don't think about it.
We should have a sign that says, yeah, we know, but it's in the courts. Because once it gets notified and it gets too far, and it's like, yeah, we know, we can't do any more about it.
Yeah,
It's been
I
reported
know.
872 times.
If anyone either in this room or listening is offended by my extra strong passion, it's not my desire to be mean.
Why you're here. No, you're not being mean. No, you're saying what needs to be said. So it's,
I appreciate
We
that.
have thick skin. We're fine.
Well, yeah, you get thick skin in this role. You do.
What do you think the average length of learning process that it takes for a new law enforcement officer to come in and be able to perform their job efficiently? Like, how long do you think it takes them to learn that?
Ours is set up to be 10 months.
10 months?
They have to go to the police academy, which is a 14-week, non-negotiable. It's 14 weeks, and they have to pass that with a certain percentage at every level, and they are tested every week. And if they don't meet the minimum, then they're asked to leave. So, but then when they come back, we have a minimum of 14-week field one-on-one training with an officer. So when each call comes out, they have an officer sitting by them so help guide them to making good decisions. So because there are people out there who are waiting and hoping for us to fail and say something or do something wrong. And so we try to mitigate those mistakes. And by having a seasoned officer with these brand new officers. So it takes us about 10 months, sometimes a little longer, and we're okay with a little longer if it's the right person. So because we want to put the best product out there, because if we don't, you are absolutely going to hear about it far more than you do now.
And some of these officers, you said we're losing like 5 officers a year, and those are seasoned.
Yes,
So
that's
they-
experience walking out the door.
So then that kind of affects almost like the quality of service to a degree?
It certainly can.
Okay.
Yes, and that's why some of our best officers are still here, clearly, and that's why it's so important to take care of our current employees, so we don't lose that experience walking out the door every year. And the last year specifically, we've had some officers who didn't quite meet the standards that I
Encouraged to seek opportunities elsewhere?
Yes. So am I okay with that kind of, because that it's counterproductive to our culture, but that we have really fostered in our community. So, but then there were some that just, law enforcement wasn't for them as well. And you spend a couple years doing that, and then, and they can see it, the growth in the private sector outside, because being a public servant, you're not doing it for the pay for the most part. You're just not.
Yeah.
So,
Does HR aggregate, like an exit interview or whatever,
Yes.
to tell us, what anonymized, why we're losing folks?
yes.
And is there a trend, or is it just all over the place?
Currently, it's for a variety of reasons. What I'd like to point out is, although I ask the same questions, what is the turnover? What is really the turnover?
Because churn is normal.
Right.
Yes,
turnover is normal.
yes.
But then I take a step back, and there still is the question, there is turnover, whether it is because people are leaving, they don't want to be a cop anymore, or they can get paid somewhere else better, or we invited them to leave. I guess the point that Chief is trying to drive home is it is difficult to hire good cops.
Yeah, and it's not just a phenomenon that's going on in Newton, Kansas. This is going on nationwide in
Yeah.
law enforcement, public service, just in general, whether you work for the water department, street department, police department, fire department. The fire department's kind of the last coming to the party here, because they are just now experiencing this shortfall of folks wanting to be in just a fireman or EMT or just in general. Law enforcement's been suffering from this for a number of years because of something that happened 1,500 miles away.
Yeah.
You know, it was,
Yeah.
but we can't have that here. But there's no honor amongst thieves, because departments from department, we're stealing, and we're all competing for the same quality applicant.
Right, but let's acknowledge accomplishments where they are, okay? We have officers that have left us for greener pastures that have come back,
Yes.
okay?
We have.
We have,
Or regretted
we have
leaving.
officers who live in outside communities and choose to work here.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot going on.
100%.
So if you can just balance that and find the third leg of that stool of
Yes.
the right person, you know, then you'll have the formula.
Oh, we're a wonderful
We are.
department and city to work for.
And the fact that you have those things happen.
I'm a little biased.
So I hate to see people go. It's expensive to recruit and train somebody. It's far more economical to keep your staff
retain them, absolutely.
than to
We-
place them. But
We calculated it cost us between $25,000 and $35,000 per
acquisition costs.
employee,
Yep.
on top of, because of everything we lose and then have to rebuild and to equip every time we lose an officer out the door. Anywhere between $25,000 and $35,000 per person. That's the additional cost.
Well, you can take some solace that at some point, all the communities are going to go, we can't keep
Yeah, yes.
the hemorrhage going.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yes.
Awesome. Continue.
Are we,
Did you want to go into your equipment transfers?
well, this is what I was talking about earlier, is because the cost is so unpredictable, and the cost of vehicles, equipment, everything like that, that goes along with that. We need to, in my view, and we've talking to Donna, I think we need to just increase it an additional $30,000 just to keep up with pace of what the cost of equipment is. Most everything in our budget, we can live within our means from year over year. From last year to this year, because we do a really good job. We've expanded over the last few years, our vehicles, we're running them a little bit longer, unless it's starting to cost us money in maintenance, and then we evaluate all the time about, is it time to replace this one because the maintenance has cost us. We're trying to operate this considerably more efficient.
Which
than we
is
have
the
in
way to
past.
do it, but you still have to contribute to the reserve to replace it for when
That's
you
exactly.
finally
So
have
when
to
that
pull the
need-
trigger.
when
Just
that
don't
need
do both
arises.
of those things.
Yeah.
Don't not contribute and.
Right.
Yeah.
So when the need arises, we have the money to purchase it when it comes time to replace.
But that we're not just hardlining and we said 7 years, it's 7 years or it's done, or 5, or.
Right.
Some of yours are 3s and 5s.
Yes,
The
it
way they
tends.
get beat up.
That's
Right.
exactly
When you
it.
say transfer on there, are you referring to like any kind of transfer, like to different jail or different?
This one specifically is to our equipment replacement. It's for our vehicles, that's our highest expense. Our vehicles, the equipment that goes along in with it are the computers in our cars, the radios on our cars, the lights that flash, to our body cameras and car cameras and GPS units, that there's a set cost. And some of those that we set aside monies every year, so when the 5th year comes, we need to replace a vehicle, we have the dollars in place to just purchase the vehicle.
It's a savings account, is what it
transferring
is.
From their checkbook to their savings account.
Credit and debit, sorry.
That's exactly it.
Exactly.
And we have a pretty robust plan in place for the next, and I've expanded, when I've come into place, it was only maybe 3 years. I've expanded it to 10+ years. So we can look ahead and maybe start planning these high-cost items. So we're not, oh my gosh, now we got to find the money. Well, we're setting the money aside so we can get these purchases.
It has been a while since we have shown you some of the MERS. And the police and the fire and the new building maintenance MER that I talked about yesterday, I think we'd like to bring those to you. I would like to bring those to you in a work session and help you understand exactly what they're like. But they are running out like in 5 or 6 years. We're going to be in the red in fire and police. So we do need to start thinking about that. So I think I will bring that at our next work session so you can understand what we're talking about better. Would that be okay?
Thank you.
Then we get down to our money. You can see he's kept it very close. You can see the 30,000 added to transfers. And then salaries has gone up as usual.
And that's just the building in of what would be the potential increases, right, from the study?
I have put some in there for the potential increases. We're not finished.
Yeah.
This is my best guess at this moment.
And that's insurance and benefits and everything?
Everything.
And all your insurances are they going up as well?
They always go up. Since we're self-insured, we can kind of regulate that a little better.
Yes.
Like the schools having a lot of issues, they are not self-insured because they're at the mercy of the
Carrier.
insurance, the carrier. We usually go up about 5% per year. We just keep it that. And that our fund for health insurance, our health benefit fund, is very well maintained, and we keep it right at a certain point.
Who is your insurance, your carrier?
We use Blue Cross Blue
Blue
Shield.
Cross? Okay.
But we pay for everything under 100,000.
Yeah. Blue
We have a
Cross Blue
stop
Shield
loss.
is their medical management.
Management. And we have certain programs in place where we can, certain of the real high dollar drugs, which is what's costing us so much right now. We have IMA is our health consultant who helps with Blue Cross Blue Shield, all of our insurances. And they have got a program to go into Canada and get some of these real expensive drugs cheaper, and we pay them straight, and it doesn't cost our employees anything, and it saves us a lot of money. And we also get rebates back. So we're in a good spot with our self-insurance plan.
Okay.
But it's about 5% a year.
You got a stop-loss policy on
We have a
it.
stop-loss policy at 100,000. Any other questions for Chief?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I can tell you, the next one's going to be really short and sweet. Oops, I think I got it down here.
It's only 4 slides. And it's all double
Is that a good
spaced.
thing? Or-
Oh, why did it go out? Okay. Well, I just kind of updated a few things. You know what we do. We do utility billing, we do payroll processing, accounts receivable, accounts payable. We had over 10,000 invoices last year, and we sent out over $34 million in payments. We have daily deposits for all the departments, and we had about 58, close to $60 million come in that we handled last year. We do the investment for our maximum interest earnings that we can, which has been good the last few years. We manage a debt portfolio of $56 million. We work with all the our financial partners. We have Gilmore Bell for our bond counsel, and we have, it's not coming to me. Who is our financial advisor? Baker Tilly. We've had them since I've been here. They work real well for us. We handle the risk management and the property insurance, the budget, the annual audit. We do the fixed asset management. It's on and on. We track all the taxes that come in and all that stuff. Our major accomplishments, we have received our annual Comprehensive Financial Report Award since 1989, and we're working on the one for 24 right now. It's getting so complicated with these financial statements. We're under GAAP accounting, which has a lot of the GASB, which is a Governmental Accounting Standards Board. Lots of stuff in there. They're making us do stuff with our sick and our vacation and how much it would cost if everybody got sick. I mean, there's all the stuff that nobody really reads or understands. So we are looking at,
Cares.
yeah,
Right.
and it's hard for the layperson. We care, but it's hard for the layperson. We're looking at maybe going to KMAG, which is a little different. So I don't know if we'll have this award if we would go there. And this award means a lot. It does show that we strive for excellence in our department. We also want to make sure we are communicating well with our constituents. The only thing we're worried about is make sure that our S&P and our Moody's will keep our rating the same if we do go to something like that. But it would save so much time and headache for our staff. But we're just looking at it right now. And we'll have to make sure Danielle's on board and all that. But we'll talk about that if it ever comes. We're working with the service center. They kept talking about their iPads. There are all these iPads they have, and they have to connect. Well, Lisa is our guru of Encode, so she's working with our utility billing and with the service center to make sure all that, the work orders all come through these iPads like they're supposed to, and they can, check with each other. So it's a moving target.
So I'm not the only one.
Pardon?
I'm the only one that has issues with their iPad.
Well, actually, they're all doing pretty good. We did move the Meridian Center accounts receivable to finance, and that's helping them out a lot, so we took that on. And we did finally get our new employee. We didn't have one for over almost a year. So Christina Maple had started in November. And we got a new one in our utility billing, and they're both pregnant. So they're going to have their little babies in
It's in
July.
the water.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Our goals for the next coming year,
Another one, and they're both pregnant. I said, oh no, it's in the water.
Oh, yeah, kind of like the nurses deal that I heard about on the news.
our goals and our challenges in the coming years, we still want to maintain our fiscal strength in our general fund and our enterprise funds. We are helping with the online access to complete a lot of things online. Again, Lisa is involved in all this because of her Encode experience. We're trying to get all the permits and stuff put online and helping them get that going. We always are refining our payroll process with ADP. That is just a nice way of saying we're fighting with them all the time, but that's ongoing. The HR department is working real hard to understand that ADP and to help us with that. And then we're implementing our comprehensive compensation study.
Oh, you
That's taken a
skipped
lot
over
of time.
e-statements.
Pardon?
You skipped over e-statements.
Well, I hate to read everything. Yeah, we're still working on the e-statements for utility billing. We can do it now. We're just trying to get it pushed out better because it is available if anybody wants it. We just need your email. So you can get it online. You still get a paper copy if you want, but you don't have to get a paper copy. And it's just a picture of your bill.
I still like the hard copy.
You're a paper person.
I am, yes.
The switch, it says printer. You just click on that printer button and it'll print you a hard copy.
Yeah, I know. But if you have an old printer, if you have a printer that you have problems with, I'm always afraid that I won't have that copy.
Yep.
And so,
It's,
know.
it's easier than you think. I finally went to paperless on that stuff because I don't have to throw them away at the end of the year.
I keep 2 years worth of records at home, and then I go through them, and so I'm a paper person, I guess, for lack of better words.
Can I access prior statements through the system?
I think so. If you have been, well, I'm thinking of banking. I mean, you have to have to been a member to get them put in place to have that history. If you're a new one,
Once you start,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll have to double check that and make sure.
Can you just go out to the website and request it, or how do you do it?
We can always send you one.
No,
What?
how do you
Get
sign
on
up for e-statement?
Yes, you can request it. We just need your email.
Is it on the website? Or is it a call-in and request? Have we advertised that you can
I'm not sure
switch
how it's
to
on
it?
there. That's not very good of me. I'm not sure how they put it on there.
Aaron says not yet, but we'll
Not yet,
we'll
okay.
get it.
Yeah, that's why I don't know. That's my excuse.
Cool. All right, nitty-gritty.
And this is, you can see, we've gone down a little bit. I had room in there for an extra person this year if we need it for retirement, and that's taken out for next year. So, that's it. We have one more, which is airport,
airport though.
and Brian can't wait.
He's been patiently waiting.
They're not coming.
That's right.
We need to cut it sometime. We can have the school board,
Yes.
because they have this.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I'm here to talk to you today about the facility that's out 3 miles east of town that has these flyy things that land and take off, that we're trying to get the word out, exists to our citizens on a regular basis. So some of our major responsibilities out at the airport, most of you are aware what those are. We have 800 acres of airport space, and any combination of concrete, farm ground, mowing ground, buildings, et cetera. We do manage 14 corporate hangars and 2 corporate buildings. We have 85 T-hanger tenants, 6 privately owned businesses on ground leases, and we have obviously multiple pieces of ground service equipment as well as snow removal equipment that's required.
On those T-hanger tenants, 85 occupied?
Oh yeah, they're full. And in fact,
We're-
we have
we're
a
full.
waiting list 50 deep.
Awesome.
So every time we have a vacancy, we fill it within days, not weeks or months. It's days that we get those filled. Jeff, my airport operations manager, Jeff Lewis, he does a really good job managing that list, and he probably has enough showings now he could get his real estate license because he spends so much time showing these hangars. But yeah, he does a good job managing that because as you can, well, we have a twin T-hanger list that I just heard him say the other day that he's going through, and some people have been on that because we have 10 twin T-hangers, or bigger ones, bigger box hangers, and some people have been on that list so long they died while they were on that list. I mean, he calls and asks, "Hey, I got a twin hanger open." "Oh, I'm sorry, he passed away 3 years ago." "Oh, great." Yeah, so it's hard to manage. There probably is a need to build more T-hangers, but to be honest, I would say those are not the hardest to manage, but when you have so many people, differing degrees of their flying abilities, what they own, what they want, it's a lot to manage for what they are. So we're going to have to figure out the need. I mean, I do remember the supply and demand curve from economics, and if you have too much demand and not enough supply, you're not charging enough money, and that may be a factor. But at the same time, how much do we want to continue to manage more? Do we want 120 T-hangers? I mean, we have more. I bet there aren't 10 airports out of the 142 in the state that have more T hangars than we do. So it's a lot. Some of the major accomplishments in '24, we had to replace our beacon, our airport beacon, which draws everybody in, was 60 years old, and we finally had to bring that down, and which it's a classic. I mean, it was a classic, and compared to what we put up there now with LEDs, it's just a light, but we do have that. We did complete a parking lot for one of our tenants in Hangar M. We had to replace our ground power unit. We provide power when airplanes, especially large corporate airplanes, are sitting on the ground. They don't want to run their engines and burn fuel. They will use ground power unit to power all their electrics, and in some cases, their air conditioning units and the same. And so we had to replace that because our ground power unit was, again, from the 60s. So we've managed to use up a lot of our equipment, even past its useful life. So we've been successful in a lot of that. We also did replace hangar door.
One
hangar,
second.
I'm sorry.
Can you just get us the slides that are missing, please? Thanks. So,
Hangar A, we had to replace the door on Hangar A. It was an old bifold, as you recall. Hangar A is still technically is our transient hangar. That was the very first building on the field. That's our round top that we moved from Concordia, Kansas in the 40s. And we finally put a brand new door on that. So it was getting to the point where it was almost dangerous to open and close for our staff. So we had to finally replace it. And that was part of the capital improvement program that the city and the county agreed upon several years ago. And so we finally got that replaced. Then we had May 19th storm. And that created havoc at the airport. Obviously, Hangar J was damaged, significantly damaged. Hangar K lost its door. We lost several T-hanger, large twin T-hanger doors, as well as some of the smaller ones as well. So it's been a year, well, are we to the 19th yet? We're getting close. It's almost been a year-long process to get all of this stuff taken care of. And I think we still have some final touch-ups on Hangar J that need to be completed, but we're hoping to get those done within the next 60 days. So hopefully that'll be taken care of. Runway 826, we did complete the design phase. As you're aware, we put that out to bid back in March and then again in April. And so now we're waiting on the FAA grant to start construction. But we did complete our design phase in 2024. We've got several rehab projects and HVAC projects that we're putting in just to take care of our tenants, upgrade some of that equipment, so that they can continue to use their hangars and everything remains serviceable. These buildings are about 25 years old on average, almost 28 years old on average, and we need to, sometimes they do create challenges. We're running into equipment now that can't get replacement parts, and so we're either having to figure out a substitute for the replacement part or completely replace that equipment altogether. All right, 2025 goals and objectives. We are hopefully going to complete runway 826 in construction, full reconstruct in 2025. We anticipate that once that happens, maybe final markings for the runway and some of the FAA work to create the instrument approaches that they're going to put on that won't be completed until 26, but the major construction portion of that will be completed in 25. As you recall, numerous conversations that we've had, we will have to close the airport for approximately 30 days in mid-October, early November, because of, obviously, 826 is our runway that we're doing full construct on, and then 1735, where they connect, will require a closure of that runway. We've talked about multiple ways to try and keep the airport open, but it just, from a financial perspective, it won't warrant that. So we will have a closure. So you will hear, we've already heard feedback on that. You will probably hear more feedback on that. But just know that we have done everything we can. We have done our due diligence to ensure that we're affecting everybody as little as possible. But unfortunately, this is what we have to do. We are completing an electrical panel upgrade in the building, Hangar E. That'll happen actually the last week of June. Sign restoration. We're a lot of the aesthetics. We put new building signs on all of our hangars, so that you can actually, and they're uniform and everybody knows where to look to see which hangar they're at, because there is no rhyme or reason out there. I mean, B is next to E and A is next to G, and, you know, I mean, all of those things. It has to do when the building was built. But now the signs are all uniform, so at least when you're driving along, either on the air side or on the non-air side, you can look and go, oh, that's hangar W, or that's hangar G, whatever. So we have completed that. Hangar J, that door will be complete in the next 2 weeks. So again, that was part of the CIP project that was agreed upon between the city and the county. So that will be complete. Economic development of green space. If I were to say this is one of our biggest challenges, is trying to find that right group of people that want to come in and build a hangar or build a business on the airport. It's always a challenge. And from an economic development standpoint, the people who do economic development full time, God bless them, because I could not take the rejection that they get. I mean, from what I understand, for every one yes, they get 50 no's, 100 no's, you know, and so it's a challenge. And airport creates a unique challenge from other places within the city, because the new customer can't own the land. We can put them on a long-term lease, 50-year lease, but they'll never own the land that their improvement sits upon. And so new entries into the market, sometimes they don't fully understand that concept. And so, because we're a government obligated airport is the situation. If you want to move to Kansas, like I indicated, there are 142 public use airports, but 80 of them are government obligated like we are. So there is another 62 airports that people could technically go to and own the land and do all that stuff, because they're owned by a municipality, but they have no government obligation. So those are the challenges. Those are the people we're competing with. Now, we think people want to be here based on our geographic location and the fact that the city of Wichita is moving north, you know, and all the development going on in Park City. We're a place that people want to go to. We are the airport that people want to fly into, because it's easier to do business from here than it is to fly into Jabbar or Eisenhower and Wichita and do business down there. So we're continuing to market that. We're continuing to kind of direct the market in that way, so that we can see those increases in transient traffic. Yeah, we've got some other work that we're doing as far as rehabs and painting and things of that nature. There's a lot of aesthetic work. What's your first, as Commissioner Valentine indicated, what's your first view of the city when you drive in? We want it to look good. Same thing with the airport. What's your first view of the airport? We want you to be able to come up off First Street, up Oliver Road, and go, all right, this place is happening. It looks good, you know, which we take pride in the amount of mowing that we do in the summertime. We try to make sure the buildings aren't just filled with trash, and sometimes it's like herding cats. It's not always easy, but my staff does a really good job trying to make sure that the airport is just someplace people want to be. Mm-hmm. So we do all of this with an 8-person staff, including myself, which my staff would probably tell you is I'm probably the weakest link in that amount of work that gets done out on the airfield. But you can look at these details and, you know, 300 acres of grass, 1.4 million square feet of runways and taxiways. That's a lot of space to manage. And we wear 2 hats. So not only are we the fixed base operator, the commercial side of things, but obviously we're the airport operator. And so we have to do airfield inspections and taxiway inspections, and we're responsible for all the lights that light up the airfield and all of those things, because the FAA frowns on us when we can't light the airport at night. And we don't want to upset the FAA, because they do provide us with a little bit of funding for our airport improvement program. We do have aging infrastructure out there, but slowly we are seeing some of that transition. Our buildings are our buildings. I mean, we're going to keep doing what we need to do to maintain those. Things like the beacon and some of those things, yes, they're aging, but at the same time, as it comes, we'll deal with it. We know we've got 3 underground fuel storage tanks that are 30 years old. It's not a matter of if, just when. We're going to need to replace those. And so we're starting to look at the possible, what it would take to replace our underground storage tanks. We're starting to work with our fuel supplier to determine what our actual need is. I don't know that we need 24,000 gallons of Jet A on hand all the time. So there might be some compromise there. But we probably will not bury the tanks again. We'll probably go to an above ground system. And we'll be able to take advantage of airport improvement program money from the state, as well as the federal government, as well as our fuel supplier, KDHE. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. And so it's just a matter of how do we make that transition from underground tanks to above ground tanks and disrupt airport operations as little as absolutely possible. But we're in those conversations. We're having those conversations with outside stakeholders as well as people that would help us with the transition. AIP, city county AIP projects, you got the briefing the other night. We're just about to the end, I believe, Donna, aren't we? Just about to the end of all of the monies that we've set aside for those projects. And we've completed, I'd say at this point, we're about 90% complete on those particular projects. At some point, we may have to go back and look at new projects, you know, what's the next step? And we'll see what the partnership looks like to take care of that. So we'll figure that out as it comes. And in the meantime, we'll manage what we have with as much as we can with airport revenues and things of that nature.
Are you seeing any growth that would cause a need for car service back out at the airport?
No, and to be honest, actually, we've got a pretty good relationship right now. So the Hertz dealership here in town changed management, and their responsiveness to the airport has been fantastic. So it appears from, if you were on the outside looking in, it appears like we have two major rental car agencies with Hertz and Enterprise. And to that point, there's been no real disruption in that. And so that's gone really well. Would we ever, want to get them back out there? We could. What we know we don't want to do is we don't want to manage it.
No.
We did that with Hertz once upon a time, and it was the, for lack of a better term, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze at that time, to be honest. We were getting paid very little to do it, and we were spending an inordinate amount of time dealing with all of the logistics of a rental car agency.
So does Enterprise have a virtual location there again?
They do. It goes through FBO Services. It's a system that they provide online, and then they deliver cars out to the airport from Hutch. And Hertz Rent-A-Car delivers them from town. So it's been a very seamless transition, and it's working really well right now. I'll look over at Jeff. Yeah, he's giving me the nod, so it's working pretty good. So
It'd be great if we had Uber infrastructure that could handle people just fly in, want to come on into our restaurants or whatever. And
which would be fantastic, because we do run into that occasionally with pilots that overnight and no transportation to and from the hotels. We have a cab service-ish, and then no Uber or Lyft capability in town. And so my staff drives them to the hotels. We have courtesy cars. We prefer not to let those courtesy cars out overnight, just because what happens if something were to happen with the vehicle overnight, and who would support you on that. So but again, we're trying to manage it as best we can. But the rental car stuff's been pretty successful lately. Within the last year, it's been pretty good. Actually.
Good.
Yeah. Obviously, we are buying new groundskeeping equipment. We just bought 2 new mowers. We wore out our old mowers, so we've just bought 2 more. And then we also just replaced a truck with 2 side-by-sides. So we actually were able to do that through our municipal equipment reserves, which was fantastic. We're able to get more vehicles, and we're planning for the future. And Donna is great at keeping us in line to make sure that when time does come to actually replace those things, that we have dollars to do that. And so that we're not having to, go back to the general fund or go back hat in hand to you guys and say, hey, I need more money. So that's been very nice to be able to have that available to us. Obviously, environmental and regulatory changes, those are always ever changing. We don't have any control over that. FAA comes down with a new reg, we follow it. EPA, KDHE, I mean, pick your agency. We're dealing with it all. And there you can see our budget. The biggest thing that I think, and I think all of us are very proud of, is that as of this year, we have paid off the majority of our debt at the airport. I think we owe a little bit for sewer line extension stuff, but for the most part, all of our debt, which was a Herculean feat over the last 10 years for sure. Some of these buildings should have been paid off years ago, and there was things that happened out at the airport before I got there that refinanced a lot of that debt, and for better, for worse, we dealt with it, and now finally we've seen the end of that. So it puts us in a better position so that when we have difficulties with a tenant in a particular hangar that aren't paying, we're not losing money on them, we're just not generating as much revenue. And I know that may seem like a non-distinction, but it is different. If we're not paying on that building, then we're not losing money other than maybe maintenance costs on that building at that time. So it does give us some flexibility. Doesn't mean we're going to let tenants go on in perpetuity not paying. It's just keep in mind that we're trying to manage all of that as best we can, and we are not losing money hand over fist when those things happen. Because as we've seen with Hangar J, it took a considerable amount of time to litigate all of that and do those things. But just rest assured, we're not going in the red because of it. So we are trying to manage that very well. The one thing I would say, obviously, thank you for your contribution to the airport. Through the mill levy, it does create about 5%, 6% of my operating revenue. The county contributes another 4% of the operating revenue. The thing that I do like to tell you that I appreciate, and I try to make sure that the county knows this on a regular basis, is that, yes, both sides co-own the airport, but you guys support me. I'm a city employee. We are city employees, so I also have HR service and IT service and legal service and all of those things that are afforded to me because I'm a city employee. And so I do appreciate that. One of the things I did want to tell you as a closing thing, just something to chew on, the Institute of Transportation Research and Education did a study, an economic impact study for the airports in the state of Kansas. They evaluated all 142 public use airports in the state of Kansas and came up with their economic impact. In 2022, our economic impact for this area was $187,467,072 per year. Okay, that's up from 152 million in 2016. So your dollars are being well invested. Your return on investment is significant. And I just want you all to know that, because that's a story we want to tell so that you know that you're not just throwing money into a black hole and it's not coming back out. So we appreciate your support, and we'll continue to make you proud. And obviously, if you feel differently, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Or let Daniela know, and she'll, in no uncertain terms, let me know. So she made me sit next to her today just in case she needed to give me a smack. So
Mom elbow?
I'm happy to stand for questions.
No, I can't say.
I know you're all anxious to do this, like, man, we can get out of here at 10 o'clock. Let's go.
Well, we are going to quit early today. The final two are going to be on the 27th at the regular commission meeting. The senior center and the EDC.
Oh, okay. On
They-
the 27th.
Yes, it was better handled that way.
Okay.
So we have some time in between. Remember, the police memorial is today at 11:30.
11:30.
Is there anything that you want to see? We will have probably another 5 o'clock workshop, maybe in June, and then the rest of the time, we'll probably just have during our regular meeting, we'll go over whatever we need to go over. So we won't have too many more workshops unless we need them.
Okay.
But that's kind of what we did last year, and it worked out pretty good. The next thing we need to get is the assessed valuation from the county, which will come. Usually I get it around the 10th or 12th of June. It's due by the 15th for sure. And then at the next meeting, that's when we might have a 5 o'clock work session or something, so we can kind of go over all that.
That's what helps us take all of this.
Yeah, you can take all this
we
in,
start
but you don't know the bottom dollar
Right.
until we know our
We
money.
Get that information.
And I will try to, at the same time, we're going to cover the bond and interest, and kind of go over our what we're doing and how that's looking for the next 10 years.
And the MER balances.
And the MER balances, I'd like to do those, at least 3 of those, so you can see, because the rest are going really well. Those are the ones we're having issues with right now, and I'll bring those to you. So anything else you have questions on or need more information on, just let us know, and we'll get it in there.
Okay.
Are you gonna put more stuff in these, or can we take these home?
You can take them, and I have your replacements for the ones that were.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can study. I know you want to study.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I want to do that, and I just think it's going to be even better when we get that valuations information.
And you'll also hear on the 12th from McGrath about the compensation study, so that's exciting. And you can, we need your direction on there at that point.
Yeah.
Which way do we go? So I can start coming up with the numbers so we can hit the road. So that's what we'll be asking of you.
There's going
is
to be a lot of crunch.
a lot of crunches, yes. But I need to know the direction.
Yeah.
So that's when, that's
Are
your,
you planning on presenting and getting direction the same night?
you might need some thinking time. But,
I'm wanting to set that expectation.
yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
we'll
because
need
she
time.
has a lot of information, but it's good information. But it's, I think you'll have a good idea of what kind of philosophy you want to run with in the future.
Thank you.
Daniela, did you want to say anything about that?
Okay.
Please let us know if you need any more detailed information, you'd like to see information in a different format. Be happy to get that to you before our next budget conversation. But thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for sitting there awkwardly.
What is,
That's what I do. I sit everywhere awkwardly, yeah, that's what I do.
What does
Keep me around for-
826 mean? Is it like starting from this point on a compass and going to this point? or
Yeah,
what is-
so if you're landing on runway 8, your magnetic compass heading would be to the east, 080 degrees, and then approximately, I mean, we do vary those. So like on 1735, the actual magnetic compass is 173 degrees, not a true 170 degrees, but when it gets past 175, we'll have to repaint the runway. But we're hoping that doesn't happen anytime soon, but yeah, it's your cardinal heading when you're landing.
So is it gonna be